Astrology and Judaism seem totally at odds. One is deterministic. Your destiny is preordained. The stars, the planets, these forces shape our personalities and guide our life's choices. And then there's Judaism, which says an all-knowing creator runs the entire universe. But even more than that, you have free will. The stars don't write your destiny. That's all on you. Plus, zodiac signs, birth charts, Mercury in retrograde. This all sounds sort of like paganism. And Judaism? Famously anti-pagan. But what if the two aren't actually at odds at all? What if, stay with me, hidden beneath the warnings, the contradictions, and yes, even the mild pagan undercurrent, there's an ancient Jewish astrology hiding in plain sight. So, do Jews believe in astrology? Astrology is having a moment. Open up TikTok, Instagram. It feels like everyone's analyzing horoscopes and reading birth charts. Now, as an observant Jew, which, yes, my instincts around astrology are probably similar to how I feel about a lot of flashy internet trends, like this looks very fun, but it's probably not kosher. For one thing, astrology just feels magical, something you'd lump in with like tarot cards, psychics, offerings to little statues, stuff that Judaism absolutely frowns upon. Plus, someone looking up at the stars and telling you your destiny would seem to go against a core Jewish idea, which is we have free will. The stars don't determine our destiny, we do. So this got me thinking, what does Judaism actually say about astrology? Well, first, famously, there's Maimonides. Now, Maimonides is considered one of the greatest Jewish thinkers of all time. He was born in Spain during the Middle Ages, a time, much like our own, when people were very into astrology. So what did Maimonides think of it? Well, in the 12th century, a group of rabbis living in Marseille wrote to Maimonides asking him whether astrology should be taken seriously, since a lot of people in their community believed in it. Maimonides pulled no punches. He writes back saying, "The determination of one's destiny by the constellation at the time of one's birth are irrational superstitions and devoid of any scientific basis. In short, absolutely not kosher and also totally meaningless." Important context here too, Maimonides wasn't just a rabbi. He was also one of the most respected physicians of his time. So when he calls astrology unscientific, it's not just a theological point. It's coming from someone deeply grounded in rational thinking and the need for scientific evidence. Maimonides goes on to call astrology, quote, a disease of the soul, and tells the rabbis of Marseille that believing in it, or worse, teaching it to others, is not just a mistake, but a moral failing. Okay, case closed, right? Well, like a lot of things in Judaism, you dig a little deeper and there's going to be someone with a different opinion. Enter Abraham ibn Ezra, a rabbi, a philosopher, a poet, who lived at the same time as Maimonides. Ibn Ezra really loved astrology, so much so in fact that he authored 14 books on the subject. In his book Reshit Chachma, or Beginning of Wisdom, Ibn Ezra writes, "Everything that happens in this world is under the influence of the stars, and nothing can exist without them." Wait, nothing can exist without them? This is a pretty strong endorsement of astrology. Okay, so we have two approaches here. On one hand, there's Maimonides, who says astrology is irrational, immoral, unscientific. And then there's Ibn Ezra, who says the stars reveal core truths about the created universe and our roles in it. So who's right? Well, to find out, I headed to Borough Park, Brooklyn to speak with this man, Yitzhak Aharon Pincus, an observant Jew and the author of the book Kosher Astrology. Yitzhak has made it his life's work to introduce people to what he believes is the important role astrology plays in Jewish tradition. And so, I had to ask him point blank, is astrology kosher?
It's like when people ask me if is astrology kosher, I like to ask them back, are animals kosher? It's not a yes or no question. There are some animals that are kosher and there are some animals that are not. It's the same thing with astrology. There are versions of astrology that are not kosher and that are forbidden in the Torah, and there are versions of astrology that are kosher and are praised in the Torah.
According to Yitzchak, there are three categories of astrological practice. First, there's astral magic, a form of astrology where people worship celestial bodies. Astral magic is, you guessed it, strictly forbidden in Judaism. As Yitzchak puts it,
it was literally idol worship combined with sorcery.
About as off limits as it gets. Next, there's astromancy. Now, in this sort of practice, your fate is sealed at birth, and no amount of choice or change can rewrite it.
This is the fatalistic version of astrology, that if you were born, let's say, under the planet Mars, you have no choice but to be a murdering bandit. If the Torah gives us commandments and mitzvahs that we should do positive things, how can we do that if we have no choice but to kill, but to steal, but to all these negative attributes?
Judaism forbids this since it undermines the notion that we have free will. Now, when Maimonides calls astrology a, quote, disease of the soul, Yitzchak believes he's actually talking about these first two categories.
He was against the astral magic and astromancy. He says it's all nonsense, you don't have to listen to this, and he's 100% correct. That's true. This form of fatalistic astrology is nonsense and not true.
So what is allowed? That's the final category, what Yitzchak calls kosher astrology. The concept that at the moment you're born, God gathers all the energy of the universe, the solar systems, the planets, the sun, the moon, the entire cosmos, and implants these energies within you. But unlike in astromancy or astromagic, in kosher astrology, these influences don't dictate your choices or your destiny. They're tools, raw potential that you choose to either harness or squander. For example, someone with the planet Mercury in Pisces might have an imaginative way with words, but they also have free will. So whether they write beautiful poetry or dangerous propaganda, that's up to them. In this form of kosher astrology, when you explore your birth chart, you begin to see how much of the world was designed for you. Timing, opportunities, even struggles. All of this was carefully arranged by God to guide you towards your ultimate purpose. This is kosher astrology. And it turns out it's all over Jewish texts and traditions, if you know where to look. In the Talmud, we learn that each month of the Jewish calendar is linked to a specific astrological sign, and that even the days and the hours are influenced by the planets and stars. Meanwhile, rabbinic sources say even Abraham, the founding father of Judaism, was an astrologer. One classic rabbinic commentary calls Abraham master of the stars and describes how people would visit him for astrological guidance. Then there's Kabbalah, the mystical teachings of Judaism. Kabbalah, as you might expect, is packed with astrology. From the mystical book Sefer Yetzirah, which maps the Hebrew letters to specific planets and zodiac signs, all the way to the Zohar, the central text of Kabbalah, which explains that the stars are spiritual channels connecting the divine realm with our own physical world. Finally, there's the Torah itself. In the book of Genesis, Yitzchak points out that on day 4 of creation, when God makes the luminaries, he says, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate day from night, and let them be for signs."
What does it mean for signs? For astrological signs. That God created the sun and moon, one of the reasons, for astrological purposes. That's right off in Genesis in the 14th verse.
But you don't even have to go that deep. Take the most famous Jewish expression of all time,
Mazel tov.
In Hebrew, mazal or mazal translates to constellation. When you wish someone mazel tov, what you're actually wishing them is good stars or favorable astrological forecast. So where does all this leave us? We can choose to see astrology like Maimonides, as a pseudoscience, something that's at worst, dangerous, and at best, a massive waste of time. Or we can choose to see astrology like Ibn Ezra, to look at the sources and see that for millennia, Jews believed that the celestial bodies were created for us as signs. And that's how I ended up here, sitting on a Zoom call across from Shifra Bader, a writer and astrologer living in Portugal. Now, I've come to Shifra with 2 pieces of information: the exact time I was born and the exact place of my birth. This specific bit of information will allow Shifra to view and analyze my birth chart, also called a natal chart.
So to me, astrology has been like this adventure into people's souls, into who are they, what should they be or what should they become. We're a mix of energies. So we all have these zodiac signs in us. So everybody is an adventurous person, but where? So this is where our own individual universes become this complex system of what we become or what we create ourselves as we are alive in this moment.
Okay, I'm ready. I have my birth chart. There's just one problem. Shifra won't allow the reading to be recorded.
Not for everybody. To me, the person is sacred. The person is holy. Ultimately, people should feel really heard and seen, and they should feel like I was really with them.
So, I'm sorry, folks. It's just going to be me and Shifra for this one. But don't worry. I'll tell you what happened. Shifra begins with the moment I was born. From here, she weaves together this sort of story. She talks about my specific gifts, my challenges. She talks about my parents, my siblings, my wife, my friends, my career, my son, all the places I've ever lived, could have lived, the place I now call home. And somewhere in the middle of all of this, I realize she's not describing me. Not exactly. Instead, she's describing this sort of universe inside me, inside all of us. This universe that contains infinite possibilities, potential, choices. And then there's this image that sticks with me. There's the universe outside us, the stars, the sun, the moon, the planets, the whole world. And all of it has been perfectly designed to be in dialogue with this other universe, the universe inside us. And so with the birth chart, what you have is two infinite universes in constant conversation with each other. Okay, I know this sounds very unscientific. There's no data, no hard evidence. If I were to approach this rationally, like Maimonides, I'd probably conclude that this was in fact pseudoscience. But maybe that's okay. The conversation with Shifra wasn't scientific, it wasn't rational. It was more like a story or a prayer. It was emotional, personal. Shifra puts it this way.
Like, you don't have to believe in God, you don't have to believe in a higher power. There is something there. Whether you call it God, whether you don't believe in it, whether you believe in it, it doesn't really matter. I think it's just common sense to know that there is something here that I might not be able to explain. And because I don't know how to explain it, I might not want to believe in it. And that's okay too, you don't have to. The more I connect to something that is larger than me, as something that I value, like that I also feel is benevolent or good-natured towards me, that I can derive energy and also solace in moments where I do not understand the grand plan. I'm not the beginning and not the end of the wisdom.
And maybe that's the gift of all this. Not that the stars tell you what's going to happen, but that they remind you that you're part of something bigger. That your universe inside is always in conversation with the much larger universe outside. And if you can keep that dialogue going between who you are and the world you're in, maybe you start to live a life that feels just a little more purposeful and a little more meaningful. And with that in mind, I wish you mazel tov.